Hello, we are live. All right, welcome. Come here, Lucy. Come here. I'm just getting all set up here for you guys. We all have some people that are wanting to jump on right now. We're having a very interesting discussion, spurred on by several questions. First and foremost, I want to welcome you guys on and just see where you are tuning in from, see where you're signing in from, and welcome you to the live broadcast here at The Art of Powerful Alignment. Those of you who don't know who I am, my name, hey, Crystal, welcome back. Wow, I didn't even know that you had left. Welcome, those of you. Where are you guys signing in from? I got an interesting topic today because for you parents out there, which is an interesting perspective because I'm not a parent. I'm coming at you from a perspective of somebody who isn't a parent. So I don't have specific experience with my own child. So that gives me some disadvantages because I don't know specifically how you feel having a child who's been bullied, but I also have the advantage of being able to be impartial, being able to be like, listen, having no emotional ties about it, being able to state what is and give you guys the truth of the matter. It's going to give a couple of minutes there for you guys to kind of jump on and let me know where you're tuning in from. Crystal, I know you are on Bowen Island, and I know I heard you're about to go on to a beautiful trip. I look forward to hearing how that went. We're talking a little bit about bullying. Now, the first thing that I wanted to say, those of you who are just signing on, just introduce yourself so I can give you a little shout out and let me know where you're signing in from. First thing that I wanted to tell you guys here is the bully and the bullied are energetic matches for each other. The bully and the bullied, the one who's being bullied, are perfect energetic matches for one another. It happens as this little dance. Now, we live in a society. I just want to share with you, this is a very unconventional perspective. This is going to give you something that you possibly haven't heard before. It's not politically correct. It is going to be stating what is in a social dynamics without emotion. See, if you're a parent, this conversation, please pay attention to what this brings up for you, because this might trigger you, especially if you find yourself being a victim of an abuse from your past that you're still running the story. No offense to anybody here. I'm saying it to the camera here, and this is universal. So if this is going to trigger you, I completely understand, and it should, especially if you're holding on to a victim story from your past. This is going to be very confronting to you because this is the kind of emotional work that I do. And my job, basically, I've been a chiropractor for 16 years. And what I do now is I help people liberate themselves from unwanted emotional states. And these emotional states often come back from stories. And the stories from these past events usually are stemming from the story of, I'm not enough, it shouldn't have happened, where something confronting happened, whether it was a physical or an emotional or something traumatic. And so for some people, and by the way, the word trauma is very subjective. So a bad hair day is traumatic to one person, and a physical sexual abuse is traumatic to another person, and it's not to another person. So trauma is any distressing experience. And so many times the clients that I see who've been struggling with anxiety, with depression, and who feel that like they're stuck, they can't sleep at night, they feel anxious, they feel fearful of going out, they're holding on to an old trauma pattern. I'm sorry, I just had lunch here. I just have something I'm grabbing. I just noticed that I was holding on to a prop here. As I'm talking about trauma, I'm holding on to a plastic knife that I just used to eat my lunch with. So the interesting thing about it is that our perceptions of those past events are going to be the difference between you living a life of freedom and power versus you constantly being, hey, Tara, versus you constantly being in this stuck state of victimhood. And victims, here's the problem with holding on to the story and the pattern of old trauma and repeating it consistently, constantly saying it. And there's many people that I see who constantly post on about their traumas, about their traumas, about their traumas. The language that we use to describe what is a projection of what our past is into the future. So as you constantly repeat your story of your triggers and traumas, it gets projected onto your future. And let's say something happened to you when you were a kid. I'll give many examples from clients of mine. Gal who was bullied in school. She basically was constantly was made fun of by the kids around her. And constantly, since I met her, I had known her as a chiropractic patient for about 6 months, constantly repeated the story of her past abuse, her past trauma, her past bullying. And the story gets chucked in the future. And the unfortunate part about that is that the story then becomes your future reality. And I'm not saying to repress it. I'm saying become aware. Become aware that the language you use and the way that you describe things actually recreates your future. Okay? So pay attention if you're the type of person that is consistently talking about their past bullying, their past emotional abuse, their past trauma, because what you're doing is you're taking that from your past and you're whipping it in your future and you're walking into it as though it's becoming your reality over and over and over again, which is amazing for your therapist, by the way. Awesome for your therapist, because you'll go week after week and you'll repeat the story over and over again. 6 months later, 2 years later, guess what? You're still a victim to your trauma. So this kind of work goes right in the face of that kind of system and says, the work that I do kind of says, let's get some responsibility for it. Let's see what the dynamics are. So this woman throws her future bully, 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 and then has teenagers. The kids reach between 10 to 13 years old when all of a sudden the dynamics change between, the home life is like all about the mom and dad. But once you reach 10, 11, 12, 13, guess what happens? The kid's a little too cool for mom and dad at this point and now starts to expand their social network and want to gain social approval. Okay? But we have a couple things. If that child was raised under the premise of over support, let's make sure that we're supportive. Always support it. I want to learn. I read in a book somewhere that we should always support our children. Just be supportive and never challenge them. Never have anything that confronts them, and just support. And the parent, because of their past trauma story, in their past, hey, Jennifer, continuously, hey, Diani, continuously is running that story of addiction to support and is running this story. And let's say you have another little caveat in the mix where you have a single mother, where you have a break in the relationship, or there's something that's happened in the relationship where one of the parents, mother or father, I'll use the mother as an example because it's mostly the moms that are paying attention. So this is to honor you. Let's say the mother is holding on to a guilt pattern because she left the husband. So that guilt will cause her to over support. So there's so many factors here. It's not cut and dry, black and white, positive, negative. There's so many factors. I'm just playing up the story that I see most often in my clients so that you can actually gain some wisdom in this and have inspired action instead of reaction. So check this out. We have a past story of trauma that you haven't gotten it over because you keep fucking repeating your story of trauma. Whenever I see the posts on constantly emotional trauma, yeah, exactly. Constantly seeing emotional trauma, then I kind of get traumatized because of what I know that happens to you when you're constantly repeating your story from your past. So pay attention. If that's you, pay attention, because here's the crazy part. Then that's one part. Then you have a guilt that's causing you to overcompensate by becoming overly supportive. So now you have this fantasy. You're now in a condition as a mother, as a father, where you are conditioned to be addicted to support and praise. Because A, you haven't gotten over your past traumas, you haven't done the work, or you've gone through therapies which just promote the idea of poor me, of victimhood, of your victimhood, by the way, which is good for them and not good for you. And now you're stuck in a pattern. And now if you have another guilt story, you are more apt to be overly supportive. And guess what happens? We are a system of light that constantly, according to universal law, according to universal principles, the yin and the yang, that we cannot grow unless we are at the border of support and challenge. So we're constantly in our environment getting supported and challenged. But if you are in an environment where one of the parents are overly supportive, check this out in your life, then what will happen is in your family dynamic, the father will be the tyrant. Or let's say in your case, it's complete opposite, where the father is overly supportive in your daddy's little girl or daddy's little boy. Then the mother, by definition of the universal laws, plays out the opposite role and becomes the tyrant in order to allow that child to have both support and challenge, because you don't grow unless you have support and challenge. We have this fantasy and delusion that we should just be overly supportive all the time. And that unfortunately doesn't prepare a child for real life. Those are the millennials now. They've just been supported. Now they get out in the real world and they just can't handle it because they're just not used to how the real world functions, which it just doesn't cater to them. So what happens with a child, let's say they reach 10 to 13, and they have a parent that's been overly supportive. If they're overly supportive, both parents are overly supportive, then the universal law will bring in a cousin or a brother or sister to kick their ass. Why? So that we can have two positives and negatives. We have positive and negative both together. Okay? Now, if that child has a little bit of a learning disability or some sort of a disability, what's going to end up happening is the kid then gets overly supported by the entire family. Can you guess what's going to happen when that kid goes to school? The kid goes to school, and that's when they attract the bully, and that's the role of the bully. The role of the bully is to bring into the awareness to the child the opposing force, because oftentimes they've been overly coddled and supported. Now, please understand, this is not a blame game. I'm not saying you're being a bad parent. I'm saying your parenting oftentimes is a reflection of your own wounds. That's just how it works. You want to protect the child from everything that you were wounded by. Like if you were brought up in, like I know somebody who's brought up in absolute poverty, so he becomes rich and he says, I never ever want to have my kid ever experience the poverty that I experienced. So he overly supports and coddles and pays for it. And then the kid hits 14, 15 and has zero understanding of the value of a dollar. So with your attempt to try to heal from your past wounds and parent in your own specific way, easy for me to judge, I'm not a parent, because I will be doing the exact same thing. I would be working towards protecting my child from my own perceived wounds. I'm not judging you. I'm just stating what is so that you can get an overview perspective looking down and going, here's what we can do about it. So check it out. So when you have that, when you try to protect the child, you can't protect them from your perceived wounds. So the mom that messaged me earlier today saying, you know, my kid is being bullied. What do? It's bringing up triggers of my old injuries, my old wounds and psychological trauma. Consider this, that your child is here for the purpose. You're not there just to teach them. They're here to teach you how to take all of the past things, considerations, traumas, events that you haven't really gotten over, that are still wounded, that are still triggered. They are going to act it out. They are going to display it. Whatever you're repressing, they start to express. So all of these attempts to run away from your own past traumas and hide, your child will act them out because, you know, your traumas, your body is trying to help you clear them, help you process them through. And how does the universe do that? The universe does it by confronting you with all of the things that you've been trying to run away from in your past. So what's a parent to do? A parent, the short answer of this is that it is critical for you to do your own work. And part of this is for you to kind of look and see, what is it that you're getting out of this as a parent? What is it that you're getting out of this? You might feel, oh my gosh, confronted and triggered, but pay attention. I've seen in one of the cases where the kid is 12, 13 years old, starting to kind of get out into the world and not need mom anymore, goes out and gets bullied. And so all of a sudden triggers the mom from her past stuff. And then guess what happens? The kid is distraught. So now the kid becomes needy of the parent again. So consider that you're actually, with what's happening, you're not only getting an opportunity to confront what's hasn't been completed within you, but it's also a strategy. The bully is also universally here, energetically, a strategy for you to get love and connection back from your child. Now, I know this is confronting. I know that this might, some of you who I'm triggering are going to get all up in arms and say, are you saying this is my fault? No, I'm not saying this is your fault, but I'm saying it's not for you, which a lot of people will do, will say, can you see my child? He's getting bullied and I want you to fix this problem. This is actually a family dynamic issue. This is an opportunity for you to actually heal. This is an opportunity to confront what you've been running from, because if you don't, your kid is going to act it out. And this is the best news of all, is that a rising tide lifts all boats. And when you're trying to fix other people's problems, mom or dad, if that's you in this case, this is a very convenient way for you to avoid doing your own work. It's a very convenient way for you to do it. But the answer, if you truly want a solution, it actually involves you getting some strategic feedback, not from a counselor or a therapist who's going to hear your wound story, poor you, poor me, or a support group that constantly, everybody walking around, misery loves company, just constantly just complaining and whining about what's not working in their lives, but an actual strategy that gets you to look at where you had in your past that was not completed. So when I worked with this one gal in my practice, where she was having these problems with her past story, her past trauma, what we discovered was this, is that there's a duality of support and challenge. When she was being bullied, I asked her this question, which is what you can ask your kids right now, is that at the same time that you're being bullied, who is overly supporting you, overly coddling you? And when I asked Carolyn this question, she saw, oh my God, I was a total teacher's pet. I was loved by every single teacher. They just kept pointing out how awesome I am. Well, guess what? In social dynamics, whenever there's a kid that's like, oh, and is constantly trying to please and approve of the teacher, guess what the universe does? It attracts the bullies to kick her ass, to break her fantasy and addiction to support and praise. Not only that, it helps to toughen you. And no offense, but some of your kids need to be toughened based on what I've observed in the way that they're being raised with constantly being coddled. So what the bully is actually doing is preparing them for the real world, for office dynamics, for entrepreneurship. I mean, becoming an entrepreneur or running a business, you're actually agreeing to getting punched in the face on a regular basis, so to speak, figuratively. If I wasn't bullied as a kid for being the dark kid, if I wasn't constantly being bullied, I would not be able to have these conversations. I wouldn't be able to be a coach. I wouldn't be able to confront people. I wouldn't be able to look somebody in the eye and go, sorry, you're full of shit. And if you want to live an amazing life, it involves confronting. But if you have the delusion that everything should be supported and praised, well, guess what? Yes, entrepreneurs are the bravest. I remember my coach, he was like, well, guess what? When you sign up for being an entrepreneur, you basically sign up for getting punched in the face. It's like, I want to be a world champion, and you're going to get punched in the face. So if you have a delusion and you've been raising your kids with this delusion that there should be support all the time and no challenge, then guess what, Deanna, you're going to have many light bulb moments, darling. We're starting to work together very soon. You're going to have a lot of light bulb moments. But if you live under this, yeah, like coaching versus counseling, Jennifer, absolutely. Counselors, I've been to counselors. It's just, tell me your problems. Oh, poor you. That's not your fault. It doesn't work. I'm sorry. It's great to have somebody to listen to, but just take your friend out for coffee and talk. When I see a client, I tell them, look, I'm not your friend. I'm here to kick your ass into the greatest version of yourself. We become great friends afterwards. We like see each other. There's hugs and there's absolute love. But the fact of the matter is, we require somebody to step up and actually, yeah, more so for me than entrepreneurship. Yeah, great, Crystal. Punch in the face, exactly. So basically, my bullies were the greatest gifts of my life. And if you want to help your kid who's being bullied, wiser for you, number one, do your own fucking work. It's about you. It's not about them. And a rising tide will lift all boats. And if you can then find somebody, as I'm offering right now for you, if this is something that you really want to look into, reach out to me, okay? Reach out and let's talk. This is something that really requires an outside strategic feedback so that you can look and see where your blind spots are, rather than doing what most parents do. My kid's getting bullied and he's depressed. Can you fix him? And I'm like, I don't want to talk to him. I want to talk to you. Let's see what this is bringing up in you. You want to ask these questions. How is this making you feel? What past stories have you not completed? Where have you not loved your bullies? How did the bullies in your life serve you? Because this is your trigger, not theirs. The bullies, I mean, first and foremost, like disclaimer here, if the kid's health is in jeopardy, of course, report it. If there's knives and guns, and let's be real. I mean, come on, report it. The safety, let's make sure that the safety is a priority, 100%. I just wanted to use that as a disclaimer. But let's talk about what really goes on in the schoolyard is teasing and ostracizing and making fun and poking fun and that kind of thing, where it's, or maybe some pushing around, you know what I mean? It's not really, life-threatening. Let's put that life-threatening stuff aside, which definitely needs to be reported to the authorities, and make sure that the safety of the kid is under, is sound and robust. It's super duper important for you to actually see and find out what this is bringing up in you, number one. And see, are you confronted because you got triggered because of your past stuff? Then the answer is get some help, reach out to me. We'll sit down, I'll go over a game plan, and you basically come up with a strategy of clearing your resentments towards it. And just by doing that, just by doing the work, I've seen it where the kid actually has a transformation. One of my clients, Willow, we did work on her. She said, wow, is it weird that the work I'm doing on myself, my kid is solving their problems with their behavioral issues with school? Yeah, absolutely. There is a dynamic going on within the family. And whatever you're repressing or hiding or running away from, the kid is going to show up with to get you to get real, to get you to get authentic. They're here to teach you just as much as you're here to teach them. So it's delusional for you to think that, oh, it's me, my job to come to the rescue. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe that's what the payoff is. Maybe that's the payoff you're getting out of it, Mom. Maybe you get to be the fucking hero again because you felt disconnected. The kid's 13. He's too cool for you. Now this is what's happened. And all of a sudden, you now have an opportunity to actually be the hero again. In which case, appreciate it and embrace it. There's nothing to fix, but wise for you to do your own work as well. And so hopefully that's been useful. You got, let's see here. Does it have to be conflict yin yang, or can be challenged to learn a new sport is hard for them? Yeah, it could be a challenge. Absolutely. It could be that they're challenged. And that's when you step in as the parent and you show them, be their coach. You know what I mean? Yes, you can do this. One of the worst things you can do is get triggered, go in there, talk to the principal, talk to the other kid's mom, and then all of a sudden, guess what happens is that kids get their ass kicked even more because you're not getting the lesson. They're not getting the lesson. It's happening because of the over support. And so it's really about, cleaning all of that up. And the last thing that I wanted to do is, anything you haven't loved. That's what I wanted to share with you. Anything that you haven't loved will show up in the kids' lives. And so the last thing I wanted to do is to offer you a free coaching call. Go with the link that's over there and fill out your information. Let me know how this is impacting you. If this has been a problem for you, reach out. I have a family discussion with both mom and dad, and we do a strategy session. This could be the one thing that, answers to you what you need to do to get you to the next level. Yes, it is about being conscious, Diani. Are there any questions? Working through challenges is definitely important for kids to see parents doing. I agree. Working with your biggest fears, hard to do. Absolutely. Absolutely. The name of the game is working through your biggest fears. That's what anything is. Any time that I had to do a Facebook Live in the beginning, I was scared. What are people going to think? But anything that you want in life is on the other side of that fear. So whatever's going on for you that you haven't completed, if you want to avoid your kids acting it out, then it's wise for you to reach out. And I'd be happy to have a chat with you. Send me a private message and I'm here for you. But in a nutshell, here's the cool common denominator. Your kid is never being bullied without being overprotected. And if it's wise for you to take a look and see what past traumas are you trying to protect them from, if that's the case for you, and get to work on finding somebody that you trust that's going to kick your ass into actually helping you complete it. All right? God bless you, Diani. Can't wait to work with you, baby. Woohoo! Get on it, girl! Eileen is going to reach out to you, and then you and I are going to have our first overview consultation. Essentially, find it, do the work. Basically, the answer is to do the work, which involves getting you to find those old stories, finding the other side of those old stories, and helping you level up into your greatness. And by doing that, you will have a non-local effect on the kids, and you'll have an inspired response. It won't be based on reaction, because I can't tell you what to do with your kid, because every case is completely different. What I can tell you is once you complete that story, the answer, the next move will become apparent just like that. And you'll know exactly what to do. You'll be able to help somebody. You'll be able to help them and help yourself and prove what a freaking rock star of a parent that you truly are. Because I know that's really what it is. As Jennifer says, it involves you facing your fears. It involves you getting uncomfortable and answering that question. So reach out if you have any questions. Hopefully that was of use. And personal message, PM me if you have any questions, or if you have any other questions, and I'd love to do another Facebook Live for you. That was a lot of fun. God bless you, and I will see you guys at the next perfect time. Peace out.